and let us all do we can to build a better future. Okay, here we are again. There is a New Hampshire rebellion happening in the Democratic Party, and it has to deal with RFK Jr.'s growing popularity within this Democratic primary that's taking place. Now, of course, I have to make this very clear here. The DNC is trying to change the rules in regards to how Iowa and New Hampshire will be participating in the Democratic primary. They're going to be skipped over in favor of South Carolina, the same state where Obama made that phone call, that infamous phone call that caused Pete Buttigieg and Amy Klobuchar to drop out of the race and endorse Biden, and of course, which eventually led to Bernie Sanders to cuck out as well. But the thing is, the delegations from Iowa, and right now we're going to be talking about New Hampshire, are enraged that they're going to be passed over. Now, again, there's a very strong likelihood that Biden will not be on the ballots in Iowa and New Hampshire. Iowa and New Hampshire have indicated they want to still continue on with how things have been going on for the Democratic primary. And the DNC, being the private institution that it is, has said that they could potentially ignore and dismiss both delegations from Iowa and New Hampshire. So if you are a Democratic voter in Iowa, New Hampshire, the DNC is basically giving you the middle finger. I want to pull up this video from Case Study QB. Please be sure to follow him on Twitter. He does fantastic work. Let's play it for all you lovely people.
There is another state where a number of elected officials have been displeased, I think it's safe to say, about the change in the primary calendar, and that is New Hampshire. They have said they will vote first anyway, which could, of course, set up a scenario where President Biden is not on the ballot there, and a candidate like RFK Jr., who has started a campaign blitz in the state, also has spread conspiracy theories, but seems to have made, at least in some polls, whether they're legit or not, some headway among Democratic primary voters. So two questions here. One is New Hampshire. How concerned are you about the impact this could have on November 2024 and that state that Democrats need to win in November? And then I also want to ask you about RFK Jr. and what you do if he ends up winning that state in the primary.
Listen, New Hampshire is a very, very important state, but for 50 years, New Hampshire and Iowa and New Hampshire have kicked off the presidential primary process. And the Democratic Party is a very different party than it was 50 years ago.
Yeah, but that's not going to stop people from being upset and voicing out their opinions.
We're a much more diverse party than we are. And so there's no state that has an ownership for how we kick this off. Now, the one thing I often correct my friends in New Hampshire in, that they love to say that they're the first, but they're actually the second. They've always been the second contest. Iowa, then New Hampshire.
It's still, nonetheless, I mean, this is something that a lot of New Hampshire voters are used to. Why are you making the change now? What's the significance of this change? And not to mention, is there some other kind of shenanigan you wish to play? Because again, look, what the Democratic Party is probably hoping for is, since South Carolina has a larger African-American voter populace, I think what they're hoping on, or at least what the DNC is hoping on, is showing or creating the image, creating the statement and talking point that Biden has support of black voters.
Well, the only thing that has changed this time around, they will still be the second contest, but it's South Carolina, then New Hampshire and Nevada following up. And so, you know, the president is going to still compete in New Hampshire in the general election, and we're giving.
Yes, but the primary is key. And he might not be on the ballot. And you're just also talk about dismissing the New Hampshire and Iowa delegation.
Giving New Hampshire as much time as they need in order to figure out their primary process. But the bottom line is this, Jen. South Carolina is the official first in the primary state for the DNC going in the 2024 election cycle.
And there's so many problems with that, because now, again, this is what's going to be important for voters, and what everyone needs to take away from is that, okay, what other changes are you going to be making in this primary? It's just not only what's happening to Iowa and New Hampshire, but what's happening after South Carolina. What other rules are being implemented? Now, we already know the big rule that the DNC has indicated that they are going to be following through on, and that is this. They're going to make sure that RFK Jr., and if she's still in the race, which I'll be surprised if she still is, Marianne Williamson, cannot debate Joe Biden. Joe Biden's not going to be debating anybody. And second of all, again, something to really address as well, and we covered this on the show, Biden has indicated he's not going to be campaigning. He's going to be doing a lot of fundraising. So that means he's not going to be even talking to voters at all. He's going to be talking to the people who do matter, not you, the average working citizen. He's going to be talking to the donors, the owners. Let's play the rest of this video.
And what about RFK Jr.? I mean, it's New Hampshire where he's making a play. He's out there appearing on a range of right-wing outlets. He's spreading conspiracy theories. The DNC has endorsed
right-wing outlets. Okay. All right. All right. So you're indicating that Joe Rogan is right-wing. Okay. You're also indicating that him being on News Nation. I guess News Nation's now right-wing too now, I guess. Oh, I guess Twitter is now also right-wing. You know, there was a big Twitter Space event that was hosted by Elon Musk. You know, I guess that's right-wing now. Hey, look, to be fair here, we sent an invite out to RFK Jr. to be on our show as well. I believe in being fair and having him on our show. I guess, that would make Heartland's Media right-wing, or maybe right-wing waiting in wings. You know? I guess Glenn Greenwald's show is right-wing. There's so many right-wing things about that. Again, RFK Jr. is running in the Democratic primary. This is how you know they're scared. And they really can't intimidate him as much as they did with Bernie Sanders. Hey, Bernie, take some notes. At least RFK Jr. is showing you what it looks like on how to raise the ruckus. But no, what did Bernie do? He cucked out and endorsed Biden.
Joe Biden, but he has made some headway, at least in some polls. So what are you going to do about RFK Jr.?
Well, I think what we're going to do is we're going to continue to make sure that the American people, and particularly Democrats, understand how Joe Biden and Kamala Harris have delivered for them.
Yeah, let's have democracy in the chat. I know, controversial statement. Type 1 if you think Joe Biden and Kamala, they delivered, Kit. Things are great. See, it's people like you, Kit, that are causing individuals to think critically. How dare you? Everything's fine. Biden and Kamala have delivered. A type 2, dude, I don't know how I'm going to make it out. I don't know how I'm going to make it past tomorrow. Dude, it costs $300 just to go outside.
When I think back on this presidency, and I think back to what President Biden has done in the first 2 years, with a 50-50 Senate on a good day and less than a 5-seat majority in the House.
By the way, the vice president's a tiebreaker in the Senate, just so you all know.
The next presidential term that I think about LBJ. I mean, this has been one of the most successful presidencies in my lifetime, starting with the American Rescue Plan, to the Inflation Reduction Act, to the infrastructure bill, to the CHIPS Act, to all of these things that we have done, transforming the judiciary. I mean, putting almost 50 of the 100.
Stop lying. Jesus Christ. Everyone in the live stream chat is saying that too. Stop lying. So they're trying to pump up Biden as being this guy, as this person, as this individual that delivers. Roe v. Wade died under this administration. And I keep on saying this before. If this had happened under Trump, if Roe v. Wade died under Trump, people would be protesting in the street day in, day out. I mean, that's what all those fake activists in the social justice warrior industrial complex said that they would do with their little pink pussy hats. They said that they do that. Nutless wonders. But hang on, because they're not done kicking RFK Jr. down. And look, the reason why I'm covering this Democratic primary is because I am interested into how far RFK Jr. is willing to take this. Will he make this a contested convention here in Chicago in 2024? And yes, Hardlands Media will be covering the 2024 Democratic convention here in Chicago, because I want to see if he's going to go all the way. I want to see if this is going to happen. So here we got Simone Sanders, who somehow during the 2020 primary never melted and was somehow able to do so many mental gymnastics and cartwheels to defend Biden's gas, where she says, again, about why there isn't a Democratic primary. So, you know that meme from Avatar, there is no war in Ba Sing Se? There is no Democratic primary. Here, let's hear it from her.
Thanks for joining me tonight. Let me just first get your thoughts on the traction that RFK Jr. has gotten from Democrats, potentially independents, and pretty powerful, presumably well-educated business minds like Jack Dorsey. And I know there's a big asterisk next to his name, but Elon Musk.
I know that people are critical of Elon Musk, but hey, lady, listen, okay? I know a lot of you are still triggered by Elon Musk buying Twitter, but why don't you just, I don't know, try and see why RFK Jr. is not only getting support from people like that, like Jack Dorsey or Elon Musk, but also from voters across the political spectrum. And look, to be fair, yes, there is a diverse group of RFK Jr. supporters. My only thing I want to say to them is you better be opening up your notebooks and paying attention to how they screwed over Bernie in 2016 and in 2020 and what they did to Tulsi Gabbard in 2020. And you're going to know your rights as a voter in your said state because the DNC is going to be coming at you guys in full force. I'm just giving you a heads up. So you guys got to do your homework and know more than these jagoffs at CNN or MSNBC or BSDNC, as I like to call them. So good luck to you in the wars to come, because again, it's people like this that will be talking down to you. So hold on. You're going to find out why Simone Sanders is saying that there is no Democratic primary. So guess what? Again, just like that article from The Atlantic that said there are no RFK Jr. voters. So if you're an RFK Jr. supporter, guess what? Technically, according to The Atlantic, you don't exist. And there is no Democratic primary either, apparently.
And others. I mean, what does that say to you about the candidate and the strategy?
Well, if it were not RFK Jr., I mean, who is a conspiracy theorist, an anti-vaxxer, someone who has espoused just frankly lies about our public health system, lies that can and have gotten people killed. If it
not like how the Democratic establishment has done the same, or the RNC. You know, that's a hell of a statement you made there, Simone.
It wasn't him, and it was, you know, just a random run-of-the-mill businessman who was seemingly normal. I wouldn't be as surprised, but I am surprised that people have latched on to someone that has espoused views such as his. But on the other hand, I'm not surprised that people are looking for some, what's the word I've heard out there, Alex, some variety.
They want somebody else because the old man Biden's too senile, Simone. Okay, you know it. I know it. My audience knows it. Let's call it for what it is. Biden's senile.
I do think I was just at a conference for a church group, a large church denomination the other day. I was moderating a conversation at that conference, and in the Q&A, someone asked the panelists about why there are no Democratic primaries, and the panelists went through went through and explained what the process was, and
so I guess, hey, RFK Jr. supporters and Marianne Williamson supporters, I guess technically you're not real. You're invisible people. So don't go mad with power. If you get arrested, you can tell the cops, hey, wait, you're breaking the law. I'm not real.
Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett sat on that panel and frankly gave, I think, one of the best defenses of a Joe Biden reelection I had ever seen a sitting member of Congress give in a room like that. I was like, oh, wow, they might need to call her. So I think there are people out there that say, we want variety. We want choice. You keep telling us the people have the power. Why don't the people have the power? That is bumping up against the reality of our two-party system here.
And again, I don't think this is something Simone Sanders won't tell you, but the Democratic Party has indicated that it is a private institution, that can dictate who they want as the nominee. So even in the unlikely scenario that RFK Jr. and Marianne Williamson, one of those two, were to win the Democratic primary, the DNC could still weigh in and say, no, we don't accept the results. The DNC has superdelegates. The DNC has rigged primaries. We saw it in 2016 and in 2020. We have seen this before. Nico House and the Convo Couch have the receipts showing the Democratic Party admitting this. It's out there.
In America, there are two political parties, the two political party apparatuses, the Republican Party apparatus and the Democratic Party apparatus. That is the function through which national elections are run. And if people would like to change that, and I understand there are folks out there that would like to do so, then they have to do the work of building, in my opinion, from the ground up, grassroots efforts and get on the ballot across the country when it is not a presidential election year.
But hold on. Simone ain't done yet. Because again, the Democratic primary, people are seeing it for what it is. And they know that everyone wants us to fall in line and vote for Biden.
That people may want variety at this stage of the game, but when you actually listen to, if you take the Kennedy part away from his name, he is saying stuff that is way, way out there. Rebecca Traister.
What do you mean, what's way out there? What's way out there?
New York Magazine sort of details some of the misinformation that he's spreading, suggesting that 5G high-speed internet towers are being used to harvest our data and control our behavior.
Harvest our data and, yes, control our behavior. Maybe not in the physical stance of, oh, I'm going to jump off a bridge, but more of our way we consume products, the way we buy things. Okay, so there have been many, many, many stories that we covered here at Hard Lens Media where social media outlets are taking our data. I know a guy, first name Edward, who snowed in somewhere on the Asian continent, who told us, hey, we're being spied in on. I mean, how is this a lie? How is this a conspiracy theory when we already know it's the truth?
Positing, again, as we mentioned, a link between mass shootings and antidepressant use. He told Joe Rogan that Wi-Fi pierces the blood-brain barrier and causes leaky brain, and claims the presence of atrazine in the water supply has contributed to depression and gender dysphoria. I mean, this is not some.
Well, here's the thing. There's a lot of pollutants besides, you know, that stuff that's in the water. I mean, hell, we covered it in two of our documentary series, Toxic Tour and Toxic Tour 2. There's reasons why I'll never swim in Lake Michigan ever again.
Someone who has traditional Democratic views or traditional American views about our.
And what are traditional views? At least according to corporate media is, don't question anything. Follow orders. Shut up and obey.
Society writ large. I mean, I think a lot of us think that misinformation is relegated largely to the fringe right. But RFK Jr. proves that there is a hunger or a paranoia and a latching on to misinformation. This notion that the system is rigged against you is freaking.
Well, it's not people latching on. It's people are waking up to the fact that the system is rigged against us. And we've seen it play out. We've seen corporate media lie to us. Wasn't too long ago where CNN and DNC were saying that there were WMDs in Iraq. That's including Fox News too. Wasn't too long ago, way back in 2020, when all the professional talent, I mean journalists, I mean the journalists at CNN and MSNBC and New York Times and Washington Post and Vice, Vox, BuzzFeed were all saying the same thing, that the Hunter Biden laptop story was fake news. But it wasn't.
Frequently, like, it's relegated to the economic discussion, but clearly there is an appetite for seeing everything as rigged against us. And what is that?
Absolutely.
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, absolutely. I think you're absolutely right. And I think it would be, people would be sorely mistaken to believe that misinformation and disinformation only runs rampant in the right-wing spaces in American politics. I think misinformation and disinformation stops at no one political party. But the more people learn about RFK Jr.'s positions, Alex, they are in fact unpopular. If you will note.
This is how she knows she's lying. Because when people also watch Biden, they see weakness. Now, the thing is, RFK Jr. has been consistent for his part in speaking how he feels. Now, again, there's a lot of policy issues that I disagree with RFK Jr. And I've made it very clear how I feel about how he deleted that tweet in support for Roger Waters. Again, no one's perfect. But the thing is, RFK Jr.'s message is resonating with people who could potentially vote Democrat, to which I have to say to those people, heads up, you're going to be in a world of disappointment with the Democratic primary. But nonetheless, there's a reason why his message is gaining so much popularity. And there's a reason why he was able to raise, and look, again, this really says a lot about our economic system and our political system, but raise $6 million over the weekend. Well, we'll talk about that later.
on the campaign trail, he has not espoused the same anti-vaccine rhetoric using the same words that he did prior to him being a candidate. He talks about ending chronic diseases, right, or chronic illness. He shrouds the words because his positions are widely unpopular.
Yes, his positions are widely unpopular. However, I want to pull up this video from Case Study QB. Let's be sure to play it for all of you. Him raising $6 million.
$6 million, right? Not suggesting he's going to win a contest or win the nomination, obviously. But what should the Biden campaign take from consistent double-digit showings in these polls? $6 million in the second quarter.
And like 20% in polling.
Yeah, they cannot ignore RFK or any third-party contender at this notion. It's not.
But that's what the Democratic Party is doing. Biden's not campaigning. He's fundraising.
Not like RFK is going to win, but he could hurt Joe Biden from winning. And so, well, just because he gives an alternative. And so for folks who are just really frustrated with the political system, they could just say, you know, throw their hands up, disengage. So the Biden campaign, which I believe they're doing, needs to go out and meet those voters that are supporting RFK where they are, do the polling. Why are they supporting them? I do think the Kennedy name has great name recognition in this country and particularly in the Democratic Party, but you can't take it for granted and say, oh, they'll eventually come. No, the role of a campaign is to go find those voters, talk to them, and bring them along and bring them in part of your coalition. Because that 20% is crucial, particularly in a general election.
Yeah, especially when you're dealing with problems of enthusiasm.
That's right.
All right.
Well, there could be some of these RFK supporters that wind up not wanting. I mean, they could vote for Trump. I mean, remember.
Yes, thank you. Because that's what could probably happen, or vote third party. Listen, to anyone that's going to be participating and not voting for Biden in the Democratic primary, I'm just going to give you all a heads up again. Be prepared for that disappointment. But know this, the Democratic Party will not respect you. They will do everything they can to smear you, just like they did the Bernie Sanders supporters and Tulsi Gabbard supporters, not only in 2016, but in 2020 as well. I was there in Philadelphia at the Wells Fargo Center in 2016 when I saw Hillary Clinton supporters hitting, assaulting, abusing Green Party voters and Bernie Sanders supporters and delegates. I spoke to a lot of delegates and how many of them were assaulted. Men and women. Harassed. Threatened. All of their stories were the same. That's how the Democratic Party is going to treat you. And so, which I have to say is, if your intention is to be a part of this political election cycle and support either RFK Jr. or Marianne Williamson, afterwards, when the DNC does commit election fraud, it is in your right to vote however you feel like. Vote independent, not vote at all. And look, yes, there's a very good likely chance that some people just might vote for Trump if Trump wins the nomination in the Republican primary of 2024.
They could, yeah.
I mean, there were a lot of Bernie
reading.
Sanders supporters that wound up voting for Trump.
Yeah.
You know, when he first.
Rebecca Tracer's piece. Sorry, you're going to say.
I would say RFK is promoting how proud he is of Trump support.
That's right.
Yeah.
But for as many people that are Democrats that vote for RFK, I think there will be probably just as many Republicans that if Donald Trump is the nominee, will go back to Joe Biden as well. So, okay, don't go anywhere.
Now, I do want to pull up this video here because, again, Fox News is talking about the latest Democratic primary polls. And if a big-name Democrat should primary Biden, so he's battle-tested as they ignore RFK Jr. and Marianne Williamson. Because, again, the Democratic Party, they're secretly trying to have maybe somebody else replace Biden. This isn't open for a discussion, but there's something wrong with Joe Biden.
Polling, President Biden has a strong lead, 64% support. RFK Jr. with 17%, Marianne Williamson with 10%. Politico had a piece in the past week saying that there should be a big-name Democratic candidate to primary him to make sure he's battle-tested for the general. Your thoughts, Tim?
Oh, I think it says something that there is not a big-name Democrat that is testing him in the primary.
I don't know. I think RFK Jr.'s name is pretty much a big name as it can get.
And I think it's a little bit of what we saw during the midterms, where expectations were we're going to get clobbered in the House, we're going to lose the Senate. We actually gained seats in the Senate and held on, or were very close in the House because he passed some historic legislation, because he's gotten a lot done, because we've seen record job growth, record small business starting. So the people that we have challenging him in the Democratic primary, I mean, RFK Jr., there was someone who ran in Alabama in 2017 in the special election there. Their name was Robert F. Kennedy Jr., not this guy. And they started at 40% and they ended at 0% because people found out who that person actually is. And I think the Democratic electorate is doing the same thing with RFK Jr. He's someone who's been supported by Steve Bannon. He asked for a job in the Trump White House. He's not the progressive alternative that Democrats think they have.
Is the Democratic base.
And to be clear here, look, RFK Jr. is not Bernie Sanders. They're two different individuals. However, unlike Bernie Sanders, what I could see the appeal is, especially with some progressives maybe even supporting RFK Jr., is that he has said, not only in that News Nation town hall, that he would not support Biden as the nominee should he lose. I mean, that is something that you would never hear Bernie Sanders say. But he's been also able to build this very strong coalition and has been fighting to get his name out there on various independent media platforms. So unlike Biden, who is fundraising, RFK Jr. is campaigning, and he is fighting an uphill fight. And I wish him all the best. But it's going to, again, shine a light on just how much the DNC is going to try and rig this primary. They're going to do everything they can. They're going to keep on smearing him and his campaign with ridiculous hit pieces. And I think it's important for voters to realize that the system, the game, is already rigged. But we got to document it and show it. And dare I say it, maybe the convention will bring in some interest or new eyeballs on just how corrupt the DNC is here in Chicago in 2024.
Begging for Gavin Newsom to run.
Well, Gavin Newsom is begging for something. What exactly that is, I'm not entirely sure. He's spending a lot of time in Florida for reasons that no one can really figure out. I think he's certainly trying to position himself as a progressive. I think, though, there are a lot.
Hey, California voters, is Gavin Newsom a progressive? A progressive's progressive? Type 3 for, oh yeah, Gavin Newsom's been great in California. Everything's fine. I type 4, no, everything's not fine in California. And Gavin Newsom has been an epic disaster.
A lot of Americans who are really not interested in becoming the next California. And there's a lot of problems there, and they don't want to see that replicated across the country.
All right. Greta Joins, Tim Hogan, thanks so much.
So I just want to pull up this one final video of Simone Sanders talking why there won't be a Democratic primary. So let's check this out as the final video as we play.
That if people are going to talk about RFK Jr., if folks are going to give space to what in fact he is doing, it is very important that folks are honest about what he is saying, just as you have been here on this program. And I also think it is a worthwhile conversation to have, right, about should folks, is this system that is set up in America, the way in which we elect presidents and have done so for, decades and eons at this point, is this a system that best represents and speaks to the people? I think that's.
No, it doesn't. We live in an oligarchy, okay? The Supreme Court, thanks to Citizens United and the McCutcheon decision, where money is speech and corporations are people. Yeah, anybody could buy a politician, Simone. Come on, be better.
A fine conversation to have, but folks have to understand that you can have that conversation, but you also have to understand what the reality is. And the reality of the current climate and the current setup is, in fact, that there will not be a competitive Democratic primary because the incumbent president is a Democrat and is running. The Democratic National Committee is not going to facilitate a competitive process, meaning there won't be debates.
Because they don't want anyone to see just how bad Joe Biden is, how senile he is, how out of touch he is, how the fact that, again, Biden has allowed, again, mass inflation to continue on. The kids are still in cages. Student debt is still a problem after they tricked voters into supporting the Democrats in 2022. Roe v. Wade died. Affirmative action died. No Medicare for all. Trains are being derailed. Communities still being polluted. Ongoing war. Bailouts for the top 1%. Yeah, no one wants to see Biden on the debate stage defend all of that, and neither do the Democratic donors. So that's why there are no Democratic primary debates, because they know that Biden doesn't have what it takes.
Now, some people, when I say that, I have been widely attacked. I was at a restaurant last week with my husband, Alex, and the man who was serving us was like, you was that girl off MSNBC telling people they can't debate. That's it, y'all. I'm just telling y'all what the facts are.
And no, what she is saying is, be quiet and follow orders. That's what Simone Sanders and the Democratic establishment are saying. That's what people are telling you to do. So if you were going to be participating in the Democratic primary, you have no allies in the DNC, you have no allies in corporate media, and you're going to have to document everything, know your rights as a voter when your state is ready to be part of the primary, and more importantly, document everything. Because in 2016 and 2020, for all those people who wanted to vote for Bernie Sanders or Tulsi or whoever, you had people waiting 8 hours in line, 12 hours in line, a whole day just to vote. Polling stations closed down, voting machines not working right, lack of paper ballots, people no longer registered as Democrats. Be ready for it and document it all. Be polite, no swearing, of course, but document everything that you see. Because all the tricks that the Democratic Party is doing, not only will they repeat them, but they got a whole other bag of tricks as well. Look at what they're doing to Ohio and New Hampshire. And look at how they're openly saying that they can even dismiss those delegations. Heartlands Media is going to be covering this convention, or this entire primary, all the way up to the convention here in Chicago. Stay tuned to Heartlands Media.